One day, two non-athletes woke up and said, "Hey, let's do a sports podcast." These courageous warriors faced great obstacles such as mediocre microphones, Skip Bayless, and Matt Hendrickson. This is The Unathletic. Welcome to this edition of The Unathletic, everyone. My name is Ben, and I am your host, and alongside me, as always, is Nate Wiggins. What's going on, Nate? How you doing?
I'm doing great. I am absolutely great. Great to be doing this again. I love doing this, Ben.
Yeah, you're loving life right now.
I am loving life. Yes, life is great.
March Madness is in full swing, and I think this is when Nate is honestly at his happiest.
Yes,
like nothing can really upset him during this time because you're just getting buzzer beater after buzzer beater. In your life.
It's tremendous. I love it.
Definitely. And so we're going to be talking about March Madness today, amongst other things. But before we jump into that, I think it's good to reaffirm what our show is about, as always. So here on The Unathletic, we want to talk about these sports and stories that we want to talk about. And so this sometimes deviates from what mainstream sports media is covering, but not today. Once again, because March Madness is a big deal, and literally everyone, along with playing Fortnite, is being obsessed with March Madness right now. So, I
am shocked it took us this long to get a Fortnite reference in the show.
I know.
I am very surprised. Do you play Fortnite, Ben?
I do not play Fortnite, but my younger brother does. He's 12, and I think it's safe to say that he plays a good 6 to 7 hours of Fortnite every single day. And I think that's actually low compared to a lot of other people across this nation who are.
I can notice it. And all three of my roommates play Fortnite, so it is. And I remember I was in here on a Friday once, and all three of them were playing it at the same time, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy!" But back to sports.
Whatever makes you happy, and for you, it's always college basketball game.
Yep.
It's just pick your poison, I should say, or pick whatever you love. As I was saying, we like to talk about the sports and stories that we want to talk about. So today we're actually going to be previewing the baseball season, amongst other things. So sometimes we like to deviate away from what's mainly popular, and so I think that's it. Let's just get right into this. So March Madness, it's been crazy so far, Nate, and we were talking on the way up to not the studio but your dorm room, because we don't have a studio anymore, that this has arguably been the most maddening March Madness of all time.
Yeah, this is as crazy as I've ever seen it. I mean, the fact that there are no top 4 seeds remaining in the South region, that is the first time ever that a region has had all 4 of its top seeds eliminated before the Sweet 16. For the first time since 2004, 2 number 1 seeds failed to make the Sweet 16. And one of those 1 seeds was Virginia. And Virginia was on the losing end of a historic upset on Friday night as they lost to UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, by a score of 74-54.
I had never heard of them before that game, that is for sure.
Virginia became the first ever number 1 seed to lose to a 16 seed, and this is just absolutely unprecedented.
Yeah, it was totally unprecedented, and they were number 1 in the nation going into the tournament.
Yeah, they were the number 1 overall seed. The committee said they were the best team in the tournament. They lost 2 games all year. 2 games.
Yep.
And they ended up losing to UMBC in the first round.
Exactly. UMBC to bring back Fortnite one more time. I think that was in a press conference. They said Fortnite is the reason that they won that game.
They said it was as good as winning in Fortnite. That's how it felt. Yeah.
I'm like, what have we become? But Nate, this is just such a crazy result. Arguably it's unequivocally one of the biggest upsets ever in sports. You were comparing it to Miracle on Ice.
Yeah, this is the college basketball version of the Miracle on Ice. But just taking a look at how does this even happen? I was watching the game. UMBC absolutely shot the lights out of the ball. Virginia hadn't given up 70 points all year. They were one of the best defensive teams in college basketball. They didn't give up 70 points to Duke. They didn't give up 70 points to North Carolina, but they gave up 70 points to UMBC. Virginia was very lackadaisical on defense, and UMBC was getting all kinds of open shots. It seemed to me like Virginia, I don't even know what they were doing defensively. I don't know what Tony Bennett had them doing, but UMBC was just getting open shot after open shot, and they were knocking them down. And, normally in these 1-16 matchups, what happens is that there's a 1 seed who comes in maybe a little overconfident. A 16 seed starts out playing really well, and maybe they're up early in the first half, or maybe it's tied at halftime. But eventually the 1 seed's talent takes over, and they ended up beating them by 20. But UMBC was not intimidated by the Cavaliers. And as the game went on, it was tied 21-21 at halftime. And as the game went on, I was kind of just waiting for Virginia to kick it up a notch and say, okay, eventually they're going to run away with this game. But the Retrievers, they were not intimidated. And they got stronger and stronger as the game went on. Virginia's, you could tell they was just wearing Virginia down. And eventually, this game wasn't even close. It was a 20-point win by a 16 seed against the number 1 seed. This is just absolutely insane. All credit in the world to the Retrievers.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's also important to note that they did lose in their next round.
They did lose to Kansas State. We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a little bit.
But I think not to shy away from what what they done, even though or what they did, even though they lost. I think Nate, let's try to put this win into context. Like, where does this win rank? We already mentioned the Miracle on Ice. Like, where do you think this falls in terms of not only greatest basketball upsets or college basketball upsets of all time, but just like greatest upsets in sports history? Where do you think this ranks?
Well, starting in the college basketball realm, we've seen lower seeds go on runs. In 2014, Florida Gulf Coast University actually became the first 15 seed to make it to the Sweet 16, beating 2 seed Georgetown in the first round and then beating 7 seed San Diego State in the second round. In 2006 and 2011, Georgetown and VCU were actually the first ever 11 seeds to make it to the Final Four, and they still stand as the lowest ever seeds to make it to the Final Four. And then last year, on the women's side of the game, Mississippi State ending UConn's 105-game win streak was just absolutely unprecedented, and they won on a buzzer beater, and that was one of the best college basketball games I've ever seen. But I think that this one, this is definitely the biggest upset in the history of college sports, and I think we've established it's one of the biggest upsets in all of sports.
Yeah, definitely. I think when I personally think of this kind of situation, you can't have upsets like this in major sports. So like in Major League Baseball, even though let's say the Padres sweep the Yankees, for instance. They're both Major League Baseball teams, and the game of baseball is structured to a way where like upsets like this could happen all the time. It's anything can happen in baseball, as the saying goes. But I think something comparable that we've seen potentially is it could be something like Wigan Athletic in the English Premier League beating Manchester City in the FA Cup. Wigan Athletic is a League One side, so that's the equivalent of in baseball a AA team beating a Major League Baseball team, which I think would be pretty unprecedented in my opinion. And so Wigan beating Manchester City this past year in the FA Cup, especially when Manchester City, I think at that point, was undefeated on the season.
I think that they had that one loss to Liverpool.
One loss to Liverpool, but that was the only loss that they had, and they lost 1-0 to Wigan, and so that was really, really unprecedented. We could see events like this happen also in soccer in the World Cup.
I remember Costa Rica making it to the quarterfinals back in 2014. That was very unprecedented. And I believe they got out of a group with England and Italy. I might not be 100% certain, but I know they got out of a tough group. And that was a really unprecedented run by a CONCACAF team to make it to the quarterfinals of the World Cup. We talk about Leicester City going on and winning the Premier League, but that was over a whole season.
Yeah, over a whole season, that may be the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I think that's one of the greatest sports stories of all time. But I think like this, if you look at this upset, it's comparable to when Appalachian State beat Michigan back in 2007. That was the first ever win by an FCS team against a ranked FBS team. And I'm just going to let you know, Virginia fans, as someone who's been on that side of a historic upset, it's going to take you a long time to get over this one because I'm still not over Michigan losing to Appalachian State. So Virginia fans, it's going to take you a long time. This is something that's going to sting. Virginia's always going to be remembered as that 1-1 seed that lost to a 16 seed. And that's what these players are going to be remembered for. And Tony Bennett is a tremendous head coach, and I don't know if you heard his post-game interview, but he was extremely classy afterwards, and he's a very good head coach, and it sucks that this is going to be on his legacy, but that's what they're going to be known as, the first ever number 1 seed to lose to a 16 seed, and if this never happens again, they're going to be known as that 1-1 seed who couldn't get the job done, and now 16 seeds are 1 and 135 against 1 seeds,
gosh.
And that one win was by the University of Maryland, Baltimore County Retrievers.
Yeah, Truly incredible. And I think with this win, it's easy to overlook some of the other upsets that have happened in the tournament, because it's not only this amazing upset that UMBC pulled off that's been capturing everyone's attention. 13-seeded Buffalo shocked your pick to win it all.
Yep.
The University of Arizona. You want to tell us, the listeners, a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo, much like UMBC, Buffalo absolutely shot the lights out of the ball. I mean, they were knocking down threes like there was no tomorrow. And there was really no desire from Arizona. I was expecting that, once they were down, once the game was tied, that their talent was going to take over, much like with Virginia. But I saw no desire from Arizona. As soon as they got punched in the mouth, they folded. And I think, I don't want to say that it had to do with the FBI investigations, the off-court stuff, but just Arizona, they just did not play the way that they have played all season. I was very upset because they were my pick for the national champion, and my bracket was busted after the first day. Another huge upset, Loyola Chicago beating number 6 seed Miami. Loyola Chicago is an 11 seed. Miami, like I said, was a 6 seed, beating them on a last-second shot. And this game was everything that I love about March Madness. It was an upset. It had, crazy plays down the stretch. Miami turning the ball over at the very end of the game. Loyola Chicago hitting a last-second shot, hitting a shot with 0.5 of a second remaining. This games like that are why I love March Madness. I was watching that and I just started screaming because I picked Loyola Chicago. I actually switched that pick. I had Miami when the bracket came out. The night before, I switched my pick to Loyola Chicago, and thank God that I did. Another big game on also that Thursday this wasn't an upset, but Houston defeating San Diego State by a score of 67-65, and Rob Gray dropping 39 points, tying a Houston tournament record. And it was their first tournament win since 1984 when the Phi Slamma Jamma team with Clyde the Glide Drexler, Hakeem Olajuwon. So this was a big deal for Houston. I did pick San Diego State. It sucked that San Diego State lost. I called my dad after the game. He was very upset because SDSU missed a ton of free throws. But when a guy drops 39 on you, it's really hard. It's really hard to stop that.
Yeah, and your dad. For those of you who are obviously unfamiliar, he is a San Diego State alum.
Yes,
so
he is. Yes,
he is. That is definitely why. And
he'll appreciate the shout out on the show.
Definitely
loyal listener, my dad.
One of our only loyal listeners, to be honest. But, Nate, there was also some round of 32 games that you wanted to highlight, because the ones we just went through were the opening round games, and then stuff's happened since then. Notably, Jordan Poole, buzzer beater, not Jordan Peele. Jordan Poole.
Oh, man. That was absolutely incredible. Jordan Poole, freshman guard for Michigan, hitting a buzzer beater 3 to win the game against Houston in the second round. And actually, I had just come back from the USD game, and USD had won their CIT game on a game-winning shot by Tyler Williams with 1 second left. And so I was walking back, watching it on my phone, as Houston was up 63-61, going to shoot 2 free throws that would have essentially put the game away. And the dude for Houston missed both free throws. Michigan got the rebound, called timeout, and I have to say, what composure by Muhammad Ali Abdur-Rahman, best name in college basketball in my opinion, the point guard for Michigan. When he got the ball, instead of just looking to take a bad shot, he looked, had the presence of mind to give the ball up to Jordan Poole, and Jordan Poole knocking down a crazy buzzer beater. I screamed. I was just going absolutely insane. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned from that game, make your free throws, because if Houston knocks down both those free throws before that shot, it's all moot. The game is over. A couple of just really incredible games. Loyola Chicago's run continues. They defeated 3 seed Tennessee in the second round on, again, another last-second shot that bounced around, hit pretty much every part of the rim, and then went in. So Loyola Chicago, I mean, they've become kind of the big story of the tournament so far. Another huge upset was the Syracuse Orangemen, an 11 seed, defeating Michigan State, a 3 seed. I had Michigan State in my Final Four, but I'm going to be totally honest. I was so happy to see them lose because I absolutely despise them, and their fans are so annoying. And all I hear about is, oh, Tom Izzo's so good in March. Well, guess what? Tom Izzo is 4-7 in his last 11 games in March, Michigan State fans.
Oh, my God.
That's right.
Dang, we apologize if you're a Michigan State fan listening, or a Michigan State fan who follows Nate Wiggins on Twitter, because I'm assuming you were lighting up Twitter.
They're very annoying. They're very annoying. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. One of my favorite professors is actually a Michigan State fan, so he's cool. Anyway, Texas A&M defeating North Carolina.
They smoked them.
They absolutely destroyed them. North Carolina won the national championship last year, but this team, I mean, again, it's defensively they just were not getting to the ball. Texas A&M was knocking down open shot after open shot. And Texas A&M is a very good team, and they're going to give Michigan a lot of trouble in the Sweet 16. Nevada came back from 22 points down to defeat 2 seed Cincinnati. That was just an incredible game. Nevada's coach is actually USD alum, Eric Musselman, yeah. And
we have a lot of coaches out there.
Yeah, and I like to see Nevada holding it down for the mid-major schools. I'm excited to see them face off against Loyola Chicago actually in the Sweet 16. So yeah, one of those teams is going to be going to the Elite Eight. And then finally, another huge upset was Florida State defeating Xavier. And with that upset, like I talked about earlier, now at least 2 1 seeds have been knocked out before the Sweet 16, and that is absolutely crazy.
Definitely, Nate. So you mentioned the Sweet 16 and just matchups you're looking forward to. Nevada versus Loyola Chicago, I think you're definitely going to be watching.
Certainly.
Due to the Cinderella stories both of them have had in this tournament. But I want to hear about some other matchups that you're looking forward to in the Sweet 16. And also, who do you predict to win those matchups?
Well, obviously, I'm looking forward to Michigan, Texas A&M. As a Michigan fan, I'm really starting to believe in this team. I think that this team can go all the way. But Texas A&M is going to be a challenge. I mean, they absolutely dominated North Carolina. But I'm going to go with Michigan. I think that Mo Wagner's presence inside is going to be a matchup problem for the Aggies. Another game I'm really looking forward to is Florida State and Gonzaga. I'm going to go with Gonzaga. I did have Gonzaga in my Elite Eight. And, Gonzaga, they're playing as well as anyone in the country right now. And, last year they... Last year they lost in the national championship, and I think that team really has a desire to want to get back to the national championship. On Friday, I'm really looking forward to Syracuse versus Duke. You got Syracuse with that 2-3 zone. That 2-3 zone is a problem. It's a problem for Michigan State, and it could be a problem for Duke. But I'm going to take Duke in that game. Duke, they're just too talented. Syracuse, it's been a good story. But, Jim Boeheim, this is a matchup Jim Boeheim versus Coach K, 2 legendary coaches. And we'll see what happens, but I'm going to take Duke. And then finally, I'm looking forward to Texas Tech versus Purdue. Purdue, their star center, Isaac Hayes, is going to be out. He broke his wrist. So I'm going to go with Texas Tech in this game. But this game could go either way, but I'm going to go with Texas Tech because of the injury to Purdue's star center.
Yeah, a lot of round of 16 matchups to look forward to. And Nate, I have one final question for you. Due to how everyone's brackets have been completely and utterly destroyed, who do you have now winning it all?
Who do I have? Oh my gosh! You know what? My heart really wants to go with Michigan. I really, really want to go with Michigan.
Unbiased.
But I'm gonna go with Duke.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Duke. Yeah. They're playing some of the best basketball in the country right now. And they absolutely smoked Rhode Island in the round of 32. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Duke. Although I really, really want to go with Michigan, but I'm gonna go with Duke.
Yeah, definitely. And this leads us, I think, to our inaugural segment or mini segment that we are going to call... What are we going to call it, Nate?
This is the My Man segment.
My Man!
Yeah. So, for a little context, I say My Man a lot because it's like, whenever I see one of my homeboys, like, whenever I see Ben, I'm just like, hey, what's up, my man? Or, whenever I see, a good performance from somebody, I'm like, oh, man, that's my man right there. Like, Mo Salah, his 4 goals this week. Oh, that's my man, Mo Salah. But, my man for this week is Jarius Lyles from UMBC, who absolutely just tore it up against Virginia. Scored 28 points against one of the best defenses in college basketball. And Jarius Lyles is actually the biggest reason why UMBC was even in the tournament, because against Vermont in the championship game of the American East Conference tournament, he hit a buzzer beater shot on the road to beat Vermont, who had won the regular season conference title. So UMBC was able to stun Vermont, get into the NCAA tournament, and then obviously pull off the biggest upset in NCAA tournament history. And, just for a little irony, Jarius Lyles' parents were actually UVA alums. And wow. I thought that was just, hey, life just comes full circle, man.
Definitely. But Jerry Sliles, my man, getting it done. There you go. Well, I think that wraps up this segment for March Madness, and it's going to be really interesting to see where the tournament goes from here. So when we come back, we're going to transition to talking about soccer. Man United, they're spiraling right now. They advanced in the FA Cup, but
things are not going well in Manchester.
Let's just say that their coach has lost his mind. We're going to tell you all about it and more when we come back. Stay tuned, you guys.
Like what you're hearing? Well, I've got news for you. You no longer have to wait for a whole week to hear from your favorite sports personalities. Hi, I'm Matt Hendrickson, and Nigel Ward and I have got you covered. Give our show, Rev Up Those Friars, a listen. We release new episodes every Friday and are committed to bringing you the best content. That's right, the best content.
Welcome back to the Unathletic, everyone. When we were last with you, we were talking about all things March Madness and how everyone is crying over their brackets because everything is just, it's gone to crap, I should say, because of all the upsets going on. And a team, want to talk about an equivalent to what should be a number one seeded team, Manchester United in the Premier League. Some people had them winning it all this year in the Premier League, albeit they'll probably finish in second place. But they went crashing out of the Champions League this weekend. Contrary to what both of us were predicting, we thought that they would go through against, albeit a good Spanish side in Sevilla. But Sevilla went to Manchester and beat Manchester United 2-1 in the second leg of this Champions League draw. So Nate, what I want to ask you is, because we both thought that Man U would win this game, what went wrong for them?
Well, last week I was on here talking about how poor Jose Mourinho's tactics were and they're playing this crap defensive football, and I got really upset talking about it. And once again, that is what did Man United in the second leg against Sevilla at Old Trafford. Again, defensive football, and it came back to bite them once again. You know how many shots Manchester United had over the two legs? They had 4 shots on goal. You're going to tell me that a team with Lukaku and Paul Pogba and Alexis Sanchez and Marcus Rashford, Jesse Lingard, and Martial, you're going to tell me that they had 4 shots on goal over 2 legs against Sevilla, a good Sevilla side, but actually Sevilla lost this past weekend, so now they're 6th in La Liga.
Yeah, they lost to Legantes or some relegation La Liga side.
This is not as good as the Sevilla sides that won 3 straight Europa Leagues. They are a middle of the pack La Liga side. Manchester United, for a second place team in the Premier League, should be beating them. But yeah, with all that money, they could not beat Sevilla, and there are some very big problems in Manchester right now.
Yeah, and I think we've said similar things about PSG and that money can't buy the Champions League.
Yeah.
It can for sure buy the Premier League. We've seen that with Manchester City this season, albeit Pep Guardiola is a fantastic coach.
Yeah. You can have the players, but you also got to have the right guy leading. You could say look at Man United. I think that if you look at Man United's team, their team is talented enough to win the Premier League, but Manchester City is the one leading it, and I think a lot of that has to do with the genius of Pep Guardiola versus the stubbornness of Jose Mourinho.
Not only stubbornness of Jose Mourinho, but literally he's losing his mind. Lock him up, put him in a crazy house. Because Nate, can you just recap this past week? What has Jose Mourinho done to warrant being labeled as literally a lunatic?
Well, after they lost to Sevilla in the Champions League, he in his post-match interview, he said, well, I've been on the sidelines with Porto and I've been on the sidelines with Real Madrid and seen Manchester United lose in the round of 16 in the Champions League, so this really isn't a big deal, and blah, 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 excuses. And then on Friday, I believe it was Friday, he went on a 12-minute rant where he was talking about, he was throwing his players under the bus. He was blaming everyone except himself. He went on his 5-minute rant about Manchester City.
He literally did a ride the bus segment about his entire team.
Yeah, and started talking about Manchester City, talking about players like Kevin De Bruyne. Well, fun fact, when Jose Mourinho was the manager at Chelsea, he sold Kevin De Bruyne because he didn't think that Kevin De Bruyne was good enough to play in the Premier League. He also sold Mo Salah because he didn't think Mo Salah was good enough to play in the Premier League. He started talking about, well, I could be in another league with a championship, with a title already wrapped up. He's just, I don't even know what he's talking about at this point. He's just saying things now for the sake of saying things. He's deflecting. It is just classic Jose Mourinho.
Yeah, definitely deflecting, and there was really no coherent order or sense to any of the stuff that he was really talking about. So Nate, it's our job as hosts of a sports podcast to try to just decipher what he's trying to say. So like, what does all of this even mean? Like, that's kind of like the question we have to ask, because we don't even, it's like hard enough to even know what he's trying to say.
Yeah, I think he's just deflecting. Jose Mourinho has a history of doing that. You know, it's all about deflecting, especially when his teams are playing poorly. And right now, Manchester United is not playing well, so he's just deflecting, because now we're talking about this instead of talking about the fact that Manchester United just crashed out of the Champions League. And yes, they did win their FA Cup match against Brighton over the weekend. But you know, they're not playing very good football right now. And again, you see, we're talking about this now instead of talking about the fact that United is not playing well, and that's because of Jose Mourinho's his craziness.
Yeah, definitely. And so, Nate, I want to ask, if you were a player such as like Paul Pogba right now, like, how awkward would it be for you to play for a guy who literally just put his entire team under the bus? I think with the exception of, it was Lukaku, Matic, and De Gea were the three players that Jose Mourinho said are like the good ones. Everyone else, he had everyone else ride the bus. That was a big bus.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. Like, if I'm Paul Pogba, if I'm Alexis Sanchez, I'm like, why did this guy, like, why would I want to play for this guy? This guy who, I mean, Jose Mourinho brought in Paul Pogba. He brought in Alexis Sanchez. These were the guys that he wanted, and now he's throwing them under the bus. And you know, it's very, very strange to me that you know, that he's doing this to guys that he brought in. And if I was one of those players, I wouldn't want to play for him. I would not want to play for him, because you know, why would I want to play for a guy who is not putting me in a position to succeed, and then when I don't succeed is publicly criticizing me? Like,
yeah.
I wouldn't want to play for him.
Definitely.
And you know, I am a coach. I coach junior varsity basketball.
Woo!
And that is obviously not the same thing as coaching
Manchester United.
But I'm of the opinion that if you have something to say to a player, if a player's not performing, and I think you need to talk to them privately, or maybe you talk to them in front of the team, but you don't go out and put them on blast in front of everybody. That's just my opinion. Now, that being said, I do coach like 15-year-old boys and not grown men, so that's you know,
neither here nor there, as you like to say.
I do want to give a shout out to the guys on the basketball team that I coach, because they all do listen to the show.
Hey, there you go. Well, you know, one day you're on JV basketball at Parker. Next, who knows? You'll be on Manchester United. You know,
yeah.
and you know, and just know that Nate Wiggins is a better players manager than the manager of Manchester United.
I should be managing Manchester United.
Yeah,
right, I could have them at the top of the Premier League.
Oh my gosh, goodness gracious. That's kind of like, this is an unrelated note. I feel like literally that's how the problems at Arsenal would be solved. Literally just put any other warm body there.
Like you? You want to go manage Arsenal?
Yeah, honestly. Arsenal, I'm putting myself out there. I will coach the team.
Kroenke.
Stan Kroenke. You know, you're probably in America because you're sure as hell not watching Arsenal. Just hire me. I honestly would do a lot better of a job, as humble as that is. Getting back on track here, though. We came all the way around there, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Jose Mourinho just got a contract extension a few months ago. And so I want to know, even though he has this contract extension, do you think he's going to get sacked soon? Because this is obviously horrible press for the team. To, you know, a team with Jose Mourinho was talking a lot about heritage in his press conferences, and how Manchester United doesn't have heritage. I heavily disagree with that. Like, I think they are arguably the most historic football club, like in
one of the biggest clubs in the world,
entire world. So you're talking about how they don't have heritage, but like, honestly, like with a club with this kind of heritage, this kind of bad press is not good for your club's reputation. So do you think that he is going to get sacked anytime soon if he keeps up this behavior?
You know, I don't see him getting sacked anytime soon, even if United doesn't win a trophy this year, because given all of this craziness and the things that he's saying, he does have them in second place, and they are going to finish top 4 for only the second time since Sir Alex, one of the greatest football managers of all time, retired. And so last year they were 6th, now they're in 2nd, and he could say, well, look, I've made improvements. Last year we had to win the Europa League to qualify for the Champions League. Now we're going to qualify for the Champions League by finishing top 4. So, no, I don't see him going anywhere anytime soon. And I'm sorry to United fans. You're going to have to watch that crap football for at least another season.
Definitely. You know, you wish everyone's football that they play could be as entertaining as a team like Liverpool, who destroyed Watford. I don't think we're going to go over that in that segment, but let's just acknowledge that game first of all.
Yeah, can we? Mo Salah, we are not worthy.
Yeah, definitely. And even Firmino's goal was incredible. The backheel flick volley.
Tremendous, yeah.
All goals scored by them were tremendous.
Beautiful.
But getting back to Manchester United, the FA Cup is the only thing that they have left to play for for this calendar year. And so that is potentially only one trophy, and there's still good competition left in that tournament. Chelsea and Tottenham. And
Spurs are going to be playing at home since the semifinal and the final are at Wembley. So,
yeah.
I personally think Tottenham is the favorites going into that competition. I think that this is finally the year, for the first time in, I think, a decade, that Tottenham will win a trophy.
Wow.
So,
yeah, that would be real big for Tottenham fans, and they would finally put... an
actual
trophy in their trophy
cabinet,
case instead of putting the pressure on Huddersfield Town or whatever else they have in there. But my question to you is, Nate, like, what should Manchester United's expectations be moving forward after this? Like, it could be the rest of this season, it could be next couple years. Like, what are their expectations?
Well, we actually spoke to our in-house United correspondent, my roommate, Manchester United fan, Vince Chatteravian, about this, and we asked him, would you consider this season a successful season for Manchester United? And he said that, talking about moving from 6th to 2nd, it's good, but it's not good enough for a club like Manchester United. But, it is a step in the right direction. And he talked about, this is the first step in the marathon, but they want to get to the finish line of winning the Premier League. So, looking at Manchester United's expectations going forward, I've said it before and I'll say it again, they have the talent to win the Premier League.
Yeah.
They do have the talent. And given that what's going on across the way in Manchester City, how they're running away with the Premier League, I think Liverpool is going to be a contender next year. We don't know what's going to happen with Arsenal. They're an unknown. Chelsea's going to have a new manager. I think United, if they want to win the Premier League, they're going to have to move away from this pragmatic, defensive kind of shell football. Because it does get results, but I don't think it's good enough to win the Premier League. So I think right now, United, they're going to be in, over these next couple of years, if they continue this up, they're probably going to be in a top 4 fight, because I think next season Liverpool is going to be better than them. I think Spurs could be better than them, Chelsea. So we'll see what happens. But right now, I mean, there's a lot of unknowns with them.
Yeah, definitely a lot of unknowns. But yeah, Manchester United, I would say, like, it's a good time to be a Manchester United fan, because it usually is a good time to be a Man U fan, just as a whole. There's a lot of winning, but at the same time, having a coach like this is, as an Arsenal fan, I relate on a holistic level of their, just having a coach that has just lost his mind. And it's so frustrating, and you don't like that representing your team, representing you as a fan, definitely, is not necessarily... the way to go in that respect. So yeah, I think that does it for this conversation on Manchester United. And so when we come back, this is actually our last show until baseball season begins. So we're going to give you guys sort of our comprehensive look at what this coming baseball season is going to look like, with a little bias here and there. We're going to be talking about some of our favorite teams in that. And so stick around. We'll be right back.
Like what you're hearing? Well, I've got news for you. You no longer have to wait a whole week to hear from your favorite sports personalities. Hi, I'm Nate Wiggins, and Ben Friedel and I have got you covered. Give our show, The Unathletic, a sports podcast, a listen. We release new episodes every Monday and are committed to bringing you the best content. That's right, the very best content.
Welcome back to the Unathletic, everyone. When we were last with you, we were discussing the turmoil going on at Manchester United. And now, let's move to a completely different sport, Nate. Let's talk some baseball. This is our last episode until baseball season starts. Not our last episode ever, don't worry. So with baseball season coming up, Nate, you're a Red Sox fan. You're a native San Diegan, but you're a diehard Red Sox fan. Still don't really know how it works, but I'll respect you and I'll respect that. But
that seemed a little unnecessary.
Yeah, it was. But we out here, man. And so the Red Sox, what do you think they're going to be doing this year? Because I think everyone who's familiar with what's been going on in the world of baseball knows that the Yankees just acquired Giancarlo Stanton. So what do you think? or what are your expectations for the Red Sox going into 2018?
My expectations are to win the American League East and make it to the American League Championship Series before crashing and burning. Yes,
Confidence.
The Yankees are. Over the last 2 years, we won one playoff game, so I think that's definitely being confident. The Yankees are a threat, but we added a guy who's pretty good too. His name is JD Martinez. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
He was on my fantasy team last year.
He's on my fantasy team this year. So,
oh yeah. Enjoy him. There you go.
Well, that makes me adding JD Martinez makes me a lot less scared of the Yankees, and I actually think that the Red Sox are a safer bet to win the American League East than the Yankees. I understand the Yankees. They go out and get a guy who almost hit 60 home runs last year. They've got a rookie who hit 50 home runs last year. So I understand the Yankees are good, but the Yankees have a lot of unknowns. Can Giancarlo Stanton stay healthy? Can Aaron Judge repeat his success from 2017? He's coming off of shoulder surgery, I believe. So, we don't know what's going to happen. And obviously the Red Sox have some question marks. Biggest one for me is, can Xander Bogaerts go back to being one of the best shortstops in the American League? For 2 years, he was 2015 and 2016. He was like the best offensive shortstop in the league. Had a bit of a down year last year, but I want to see if he can get back to repeating his form. But you know what? Given all that, I think the Red Sox are a safer bet than the Yankees are. And you can call me biased, y'all can call me whatever. I honestly think the Red Sox are a safer bet to win the American League East than the Yankees.
I think that's valid. I don't think you necessarily need to be biased to think that the Red Sox would be a safer bet than the Yankees. But I think for me personally, I disagree in the fact that the Red Sox just viewing their team on a more holistic way, have been very inconsistent over the past 4 to 5 years in terms of what they've produced just record-wise. It seems like every other year the Red Sox are winning the division, going deep into the playoffs, if not winning the World Series, and then the next year they literally will win like 70 games and finish last in the AL East.
World Series, last place, win division. Like, that is crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty unprecedented, especially, I think a lot of that has to do with signing players like Pablo Sandoval.
Who? I'm sorry, I don't know who that is.
Greatest Red Sox of all time, Pablo Sandoval. And so I think with that being said, the Red Sox, it's not necessarily safe to bet on their success because it's been proven in the past that out of nowhere, when it seems like they have everything going their way, that they'll crash and burn. And I think that's why it's up to Alex Cora, new manager Alex Cora, who replaced John Farrell this offseason, to right the ship in that way and just to be a manager of consistency. But he again is an unknown. Like, he's going to have a lot to prove this season in terms of he can handle managing not only a team with a lot of like high profile names, but in a market like Boston where the media is very unforgiving. And you can be put on blast every single day.
If I was Alex Cora, I would delete my Twitter account now, so that once you make one wrong decision, people are going to come after you. So I'm a little surprised he still has the Twitter, to be honest.
Definitely. And then also Alex Cora, don't do what Jose Mourinho did and just rail on your players for 12 minutes.
Because Bobby Valentine did that and it didn't work out for him.
Yeah, and he who must not be named, Bobby Valentine. Definitely. We're glad he's gone. I'm not even a Red Sox fan, and I'm glad he's out of baseball. Anyways, that's neither here nor there, as you like to say, Nate. And so, you have the Red Sox winning the division. So you mentioned that you have them crashing and burning in the ALCS. Why is that?
Well, I think Cleveland and Houston are better teams. And I think maybe the Red Sox should get by, because those are the two teams that have eliminated the Red Sox back-to-back years in the postseason.
Crushed them.
Yeah, exactly. So, maybe the Red Sox could get by one of those teams, but I don't see them getting past both those teams. But getting to the ALCS, obviously your goal is to win the World Series. You want to win the World Series every single year, but getting to the ALCS would be a huge step in the right direction for a team that has got swept in 2016, won one postseason game last year. So it's all about those small steps, like our buddy Vince said. It's a marathon, and you gotta get going. And I can see us getting to the ALCS. I would love to say World Series, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I think my take on how the Red Sox will do this year is I honestly think the Yankees are a better team. I think their pitching rotation is just unequivocally better. There's a lot more question marks in the Red Sox rotation, in my opinion. I know you may disagree with me, but you don't really know what you're going to get out of David Price this year in terms of, he's on a really big contract. We don't know what we're going to get out of him. Rick Porcello, I think, is a huge unknown. He's sort of operated like the Red Sox have. He has. He's had amazing years and he's had terrible years. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do. And then also the back end of the Red Sox rotation. We don't really know, how that's going to work. The Yankees, their starting five is set. You have four guys that could arguably be a 1 or a 2 on any other team in Major League Baseball, with a few exceptions, I would say, other than the Nationals and the Dodgers. But yeah, when Sonny Gray is your fourth starter, I think that's a pretty fantastic rotation, if I do say so myself. And so I think the Yankees are going to win the division. I do give the Red Sox a wild card position though, because I think that the American League as a whole is weaker than the National League, and so other than the Red Sox, we like sort of those mid to upper tier teams that they'll be competing with will be teams like the Angels, who definitely have not proven themselves. The Mariners, everyone likes to pick the Mariners.
Every year I say the Mariners are going to be a wild card team, and every year I'm proven wrong. So I'm going to say this year that they're not a wild card team, and hopefully, because I'd like to see them get into the playoffs to end their drought. I'm going to say this. If the Bills can make the playoffs, the Mariners can. I'm going to just say that.
Definitely. We have a buddy in our fantasy baseball league. His name is Michael McGaw. Who knows? Maybe he'll listen to this segment, and he is from Seattle, and he is a Mariners fan. So our hearts go out to him in that, one of the longest existing playoff droughts in sports, the Seattle Mariners, which is amazing because the teams that they've assembled over the past 2 to 3 years have been good enough on an objective roster level to make the playoffs. And so then again, getting back to the Red Sox, there's teams like the Angels and the Mariners that are going to be competing with them. You don't really know about teams like the Blue Jays, how they'll fare. Maybe the A's will come up and surprise people. People like to say that every year. I don't know. But that's why I have them as winning a wild card spot this year. So, Nate, I want to ask you, actually, before I ask you anything, my final point on the Red Sox will be, I think this is a transition year for them. And with that being said, welcome to Boston, Manny Machado. I think Manny Machado being a free agent next season, the Red Sox are definitely going to want to try to keep up with the Yankees in this way, especially if they don't win the division. And I think that's going to pressure them to sign a guy like Manny Machado. I mean, they have Rafael Devers, who's such a young stud at third base, but I know we were talking about this earlier. I would personally like to have Manny Machado arguably over any third baseman or shortstop in Major League Baseball. He's just that good. So, yeah, I mean, Nate, do you have any thoughts on my opinions of the Red Sox signing Machado?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to turn down Manny Machado if he comes to the Red Sox, but I don't think that the Red Sox need is in, like, current Major League Baseball talent. The Red Sox need is in prospects. It's in AA, AAA, single A. It's in the farm system. That's where the Red Sox need to be allocating their resources.
Yeah, especially with the Yankees and how strong they're.
Yeah, because I'd say that the Red Sox and Yankees Major League rosters are very,
they're pretty comparable,
pretty even. But the Yankees are a mile ahead when it comes to prospects, when it comes to the farm system, and a lot of that is because the Red Sox have gone out and they've traded for guys like Craig Kimbrell and Chris Sale. They've brought these guys in to assemble a team that can win the World Series now, but 3, 4, 5 years down the road could be a dumpster fire. And so I think the Red Sox need to be allocating their resources in the draft and international signings, player development. Yeah, and that's why I actually think where a guy like Alex Cora, who's I believe he's from Puerto Rico. Yeah, I think he's from Puerto Rico.
It's from a Latin American country.
Yeah, Puerto Rico's not a country, but
oh yeah, sorry.
Again, neither here nor there.
I apologize, Puerto Rico.
Alex Cora, someone who's kind of been in those circles with international player development. I think having a guy like him could go a long way for the Red Sox. But yeah, the Red Sox need to be allocating their resources in the farm system and in player development, and not in spending big time money on huge free agents. Okay, well, moving on here to Ben's favorite team, the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yes.
Ben, what are your expectations for the Cardinals this year? Because, the Cardinals have missed the playoffs back-to-back years. And I always heard about, the Cardinal way. And the Cardinals are the model Major League franchise. Is the Cardinal way, is that still a thing? Are they still the model Major League franchise, given the fact that they've missed the playoffs back-to-back years?
Yeah, so I think that's a really great question, Nate. And so I think this whole Cardinal way stigma gets on a lot of fans' nerves. I think
it does
objectively,
it gets on my nerves.
A lot of people hate the Cardinals due to players like Yadier Molina, who he's very animated when he's playing, picking off runners at first base, and he's definitely the captain of the Cardinals and sticking up for his teammates and who the Cardinals are. And he famously got into that fight with Brandon Phillips a number of years ago. I think that was like 5 or 6 years ago. But yeah, I think that Cardinal fans also feed into the Cardinal way in that regard, and they just kind of ride the wave of like the media as a whole kind of dubbing Cardinals fans as like the best fans in baseball. And so I'm personally still a believer in the Cardinal way, even if I like kind of realize that like the stigma of the Cardinal way is a little mixed in that regard. But I think the Cardinal way at its core is consistency, if I were to put it in one word, and that I think has to do with the continued success. And when I say continued success, I mean like 10 to 15 years of continuous minor league, like fantastic minor league development. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, Nate, like every single year it seems like a guy on the Cardinals comes from out of nowhere and keeps the team in contention, even when it seems like, oh, the Cardinals will be, more mediocre this year, then a good rookie will come up and then they'll win 95 games.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's just kind of the way it's gone. And I think that's a real testament to their minor league development and how coaches and staff, down in the minor leagues, down in Memphis, amongst other minor league cities that are affiliated with the Cardinals, are teaching these players ways in which to be ready for the major leagues and to succeed on that level. Last year, Paul DeJong was called up, and he actually he caused us to trade Aledmus Diaz, who was our stellar rookie that came up 2 years ago and saved the Cardinal season. Just because Paul DeJong did the exact same thing and then actually got Aledmus Diaz out of a job and shipped to Toronto. So it seems like these rookies are on an every single year basis, even replacing the rookies that preceded them. So I think that's how prolific this Cardinal way is, and I think that's what they do a fantastic job at. This has really proven successful over the past 10 to 15 years. They have 2 World Series titles. They had a number of years where they pretty much made the playoffs, and it's actually not until these past 2 years where they've missed the playoffs for the first time, I think, since the 90s. They've missed the playoffs for 2 consecutive years, which is, that harkens back to those like 90s Braves teams of winning the division 14 straight times. Like, that's how great the sustained run of the Cardinals has been. But what I will say about the Cardinal way is that the Cardinals need to alter some things if they want to stay relevant, because throughout this 10 to 15 year time period, they have not had competition within their own division like the Cubs have been. Mm-hmm. The Cubs are, there was teams like, the Reds were good for a little bit. The Brewers were pretty good. The Pirates were good. Like, there was teams that came up for probably 2 to 3 years of continuous competition with the Cardinals, but the Cubs, as well as I do, they're going to be good for a long time, like 6, 7, 8 years of continuously
One of my best friends is a Cubs fan, and he's super annoying about it.
Yeah, yep, I agree. As a Cardinal fan, Cubs are really annoying. And me moving to Chicago next year, I'm going to have to deal with that, but, that's neither here nor there. And so with that being said, in terms of competing with the Cubs and how great their minor league system is, the Cardinals really need to make some, I think, high-profile free agent moves that we haven't seen in a long time, or maybe, making a big trade for someone. The last time we really saw a high-profile free agent signing from the Cardinals was Matt Holliday, which was all the way back in 2009. That was 9 years ago, and albeit that was a fantastic contract. That was one of the few lengthy contracts that we've seen that have actually lived up to the money, because Matt Holliday actually sustained his success over the entire duration of that contract. But the Cardinals went after David Price a couple off seasons ago, and they actually missed out to the Red Sox. So it was proven that the Cardinals were actually willing to go spend this money because they knew the Cubs were coming, and they were just unfortunate enough to miss out on free agents, because even though St. Louis is a fantastic baseball city, living in Missouri is not, objectively, it's not the most attractive option as living in New York, living in Miami. We proved that with the Cardinals trying to go get Stanton over the offseason. They weren't able to get him because Stanton didn't want to move to Missouri. So I realize this is a very long answer to your question, Nate. And the last thing I'll say is they are continuously moving in the right direction to sustain the Cardinal way, because they acquired Marcell Ozuna this offseason, which is, I think, arguably one of the biggest trades that happened this offseason, getting a guy who had comparable production to a guy like JD Martinez last season. And, adding, I think, a big bat in the middle of our order that we've been missing for a long time is going to be really great in helping the Cardinals sustain their success. But Yeah, I think the Cardinal way is still well and alive, but it's the Cubs are tough, man. The Cubs are definitely tough competition.
Yeah, and you talk about going out and making some big free agent moves. You go out, they missed out on Price, they missed out on Stan. They go out, they make a move for Ozuna. What holes do you think are still on the Cardinals roster? Because you look at a roster like the Cubs, they don't have a lot of holes in their roster. What holes do you see on the Cardinals roster that need to be filled?
You are definitely correct in saying that the Cubs don't have any holes, and I think that's why the Cubs are going to win the division this year. Their team is just too good. I think the Cardinals, their holes with this Ozuna trade, I think their lineup is sustainable. They'll have a good amount of offense to keep them afloat. But then the question becomes the pitching. I think Carlos Martinez is an unequivocal ace. We're actually
He's one of my favorite pitchers.
Yeah, we're actually very fortunate that he's going to be pitching for the Cardinals this year, because he had some he got accused of, I think, assaulting someone in the offseason or a few years ago. So it was, kind of scary there. And hopefully that isn't even an ongoing investigation, because on an objective level, the Cardinals need Carlos Martinez in the rotation because he's an ace and he's really good, regardless of, all of the extracurriculars that he participates in. And continuing on the train of starting pitching, Adam Wainwright, he's still in the rotation. I think is slotted in as our number 2 starter, and he's, I think, 37 or 38 years old. We don't have Matt Hendrickson here with us to give us an exact name on an exact age on all these guys, but he's really getting up there, and he hasn't shown his past Cy Young form anymore, and I don't think it's fair to expect that he's going to throw under a 4 ERA at this point in his career, because he really he's lost his velocity, his breaking ball doesn't break as much as it used to, and he gets hit hard. And Nate, I want to ask you, how many pitchers in the Cardinals rotation can you name outside of those 2 guys?
Michael Wacha, and that's about it.
Yeah, you have Michael Wacha, who's pretty much a 3 starter at this point in his career. He had some success a while back, but he's been inconsistent as well. But beyond that, it's going to be Luke Weaver as our number 4 spot, who was a rookie last year. He was good, but then you mentioned the Red Sox having unknowns or the Yankees having unknowns. He's a big unknown in terms of, can he continue his success that he had last season? And then our 5 starter is this guy named Miles Mikolas, who we got from the Japanese league in the offseason. And that's just a weird way to round out a rotation. I would have liked to see us go get an Alex Cobb, re-sign Lance Lynn. I would feel much more comfortable going into the season if we did one of those moves. But, I think the rotation definitely needs to be shored up, and hopefully that could be addressed during the season. Go out and get a guy like Michael Fulmer. The Tigers are going to be terrible. He's a good pitcher. Go take him off that team, because the Tigers will most likely deal him. Go get Chris Archer. It seems like Chris Archer every single year. Trade deadline. Chris Archer's about to get traded. He doesn't get dealt. This is the year, Cardinals. Go out and get Chris Archer. Also, if this is really, because I think both of us are on this train of Seattle, you need to win this year or else your time is up. If Seattle is, 5 or 6 games below 500 at the trade deadline, we could see Seattle moving some pieces. Go get James Paxton. James Paxton, when healthy, is an ace. If you're able to get James Paxton and figure out a way to keep him healthy, then that would be a fantastic piece to add to your rotation. And it's also been proven that the Cardinals like to make deals with Jerry Dipoto. I think everyone likes to make deals with Jerry Dipoto because he makes the most moves out of any GM in baseball. So with that being said, I think Dipoto would be inclined to make a radical move like moving an ace like James Paxton. So that's the rotation. I realize these are very long answers. I'm very passionate about the Cardinals. I think we are one bat away from being a World Series contender. Address the rotation issues, get one more bat. I was thinking we could go sign Mike Moustakas in the offseason, have him play third base, keep Matt Carpenter at first base, and that would really lengthen out the lineup with Moose in the middle. There's still a possibility of getting him next year. He signed a 1-year deal with the Royals to go back there this year. I'm kind of like, why didn't the Cardinals go after him if he was available on a 1-year deal, honestly, but go get one more bat. I was hoping they'll get Hosmer, who knows, but I think their frugality this offseason in not going out and getting a pitcher might explain that they might be trying to go after some of these high-profile free agents that are going to be around in this coming offseason. Maybe they go after Manny Machado. Maybe for some reason they think they can go get a Bryce Harper. Who knows? I know they have a lot of money because they sell out virtually every game because of Cardinal Nation. So we know there's money there. So it's just a matter of when and will the Cardinals be willing to spend it.
All right. Well, I think you think the Cardinals are a postseason team. Do you?
I do. Yes.
All right. If they make the postseason, what are your expectations? Can they win the World Series? Are they going to have to win the World Series, or could they be like a one and done?
So as I said, I think they won't win the division. I think they have the capability of winning the division, but I don't think they will. I think the Cubs are going to be a little too much to handle. With that being said, I think they'll be a wild card team, and it's going to be tough in the NL because you got a lot of teams that are going to be competing for that wild card. It seems like all of the NL West, probably excluding the Padres and the Giants, are going to be in that conversation. Maybe even the Giants because they've made some moves.
But not the Padres.
Not the Padres. You got Eric Hosmer. It's a great step in the right direction, but...
You have Clayton Richard starting on opening day. So.
Yes, that's pretty self-explanatory right there. But, there's teams like the Diamondbacks, the Rockies, the Brewers got better. Who knows what the Mets are going to do? The Phillies added this offseason. They had a very interesting offseason. So I think the Cardinals, due to consistency, and as you mentioned, the Cardinal way, will be able to pull out a wild card this season. And I think it's been proven the Cardinals have been a team, as painful as this is for me to say, they've kind of been like the Giants making the postseason. They're able to squeak into the playoffs, and if you can go in hot, you can steamroll everyone. And I think the Cardinals, with their tradition of winning and having players on the roster who have, 1 or 2 World Series rings under their belt, could actually help that become a reality. The Cubs, I think, the Cardinals haven't handled the Cubs very well, but if you're able to somehow avoid the Cubs in the playoffs, which could very well happen, it's been proven that the Cardinals have had the Dodgers number in the playoffs over the past 5-6 years. The Nationals, as we both know, can't win a playoff series. They just can't do it, no matter how good their roster is, no matter if objectively they had the best team in baseball, because it kind of objectively they do have one of the best rosters, but it just seems like they can't get over the hump in the playoffs. So I do think the Cardinals have the potential to win it all, but it's going to be a tough road, and that's kind of all I really have to say about it.
I know it killed you to compare the Giants and the Cardinals.
It really
that
did.
Absolutely killed you.
But, on an objective level, they have been similar in that way of a team barely squeaking into the playoffs, but, going on an amazing run and then winning it all.
Yeah, well, I'm excited for baseball season.
I am too.
I know you are, Ben. When we come back, we will let you know who's riding the bus this week and also give you our final thoughts.
Stay tuned. We'll be back.
Man, I promise. She's so self-conscious. She has no idea what she's doing in college. That major that she majored in don't make no money, but she won't drop out. Her parents will look at her funny. Now, tell me that ain't insecure. The concept of school seems so secure. Sophomore 3 years, ain't picked a career. She like, I'll just stay down her and do it, cause that's enough money to buy her.
Welcome back to the Unathletic, everyone. When we were last with you, I was going on a very long monologue as to why I think the Cardinals, or what their expectations are for the season, and Nate was kind of highlighting what the Red Sox will be doing this year and what he thinks, or how successful he thinks the Red Sox will be. But in the meantime, it's time to let you guys know who or what entire team and fan base will ride the bus this week. Nate, it's all yours.
Well, riding the bus this week is Premier League side West Ham United.
For the second straight
week in a row that we've had West Ham riding the bus. Last week it was because of their crazy fans, and this week it is because West Ham has robbed us of an Instagram treasure.
Yep.
West Ham has ruined my Mondays. They have ruined my Mondays, and that is because ever since he went to West Ham, Patrice Evra, who's a left back for West Ham, is an absolutely Instagram legend. Just Patrice Evra is Patrice Evra.
Yep.
There's no words to describe how amazing Patrice Evra is.
If I were to try to describe him, it would be that every single Monday on his Instagram, he posts a wholeheartedly inspirational video every single Monday to help all of his fans and people around the world get through Mondays, because it's tough. Mondays are really tough. And tough. Patrice Evra, every single Monday, would just reaffirm in our hearts that I love this game.
Yes,
Don't be jealous. I love this game.
Yep.
And just, it will get me up. I'm actually, whenever I see those, I'm like laying in bed in the morning like, oh my God, I have to get up and go to school. But then I watch Patrice Evra and he tells me how much he loves this game, and I get out of bed in the morning.
Yep.
That's the kind of impact he has on my life.
But for the last few Mondays, he did today. He put one up today, but for the last month, he had not been putting up his I love this game Monday post. And I have an 8 a.m. class on Mondays, and it is very hard for me to get up, go to my 8 a.m. class if I don't see Patrice Evra's Monday post. Now, Mom, don't freak out. I've still been going to class. Do not freak out. I'm still going to class. But it's just a lot harder. But, and I think that's because he's playing for West Ham United.
And they're trash.
They are absolute crap. They are probably going to get relegated. And it is just, if I played for West Ham, all my will and desire and happiness would be gone too.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw a way for Patrice Evra to stop loving this game, but I think the one way for that man to stop loving this game is to play for West Ham United, because they are just unbelievably horrible.
They are just terrible. Yep. They're just so terrible.
So West Ham United for the second straight week, ride the bus. That was good.
That being said, he did post one today. It was great. It
was a little weird.
It was weird.
He was in a bathtub with
singing
some
God's
ducks.
Plan by Drake. It was very weird, but I absolutely love him. And I saw that as soon as I woke up this morning, and I was like, I feel inspired to go to my 8 a.m. class. And I got up and I went, and I actually walked to class. That's how inspired I was. I walked to class.
Back again. Patrice Evra, back again. Shout out to my man Troops. None of you got that. That's fine. So now this transitions us to our final thoughts. So Nate, can you tell our listeners listening at home what you will be watching this week? Even though I think it's fairly obvious.
Yeah, we'll be watching the Sweet 16 on Thursday and Friday, the Elite 8 on Saturday and Sunday, and I mean it's gonna be. That's what I'm looking forward to the most this week. I mean, spring break's coming up, but I'm honestly really looking forward to the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 more than I am looking forward to spring break. Ben, what will you be watching, or what will you be paying attention to?
Yeah, so obviously I'll be paying attention to March Madness here and there, but for the sake of variety, both of us are currently involved in two fantasy leagues right now. Fantasy baseball is yet to start because baseball starts next week. Both of us are in the playoffs of basketball specifically. And you were the 1 seed in our league. You went 16-2 on the year. 18-2 on the year, I believe. And those 2 losses came from yours truly. Yes. I went 2-0 against you.
I was 18-0 against everyone else. 0-2 against Ben Friedel.
Yep. So and I currently am facing off against the Matt Hendrickson in the other side of the bracket, and it looks like both of us are going to be going through and making it to the final. So I will be looking forward to facing off against you in the finals of our fantasy basketball tournament, because I think this is the matchup that everyone really wanted. And, it's going to be the best against the best. It's going to be Jordan against LeBron, if that were a thing.
I am ready to exercise the demons and defeat you on the field of battle. That is,
and I'm ready to make it.
Fantasy basketball.
I am ready to make it 3-0 against you. Stay undefeated. But that's it for this week on the Unathletic. We sure had a lot of fun. I hope you guys did too. We actually will not be on the air next Monday because we will be on spring break. I'm going to be on a retreat, and so I won't be around.
I'll just be sitting at home doing nothing.
Yeah, so Nate is actually going to have content for you guys over spring break. Hopefully we'll have content regarding March Madness and other things, so look out for that. But in the meantime, we will be back on the Monday after spring break, which is... let's see. That is April 2nd. That's
April 2nd.
Day after Easter.
Actually, I don't know if we have school that day.
Yeah, but we can still do a show. I'll be back. So we'll be back on April 2nd, and but in the meantime, have a great spring break, you guys. Take it easy.
We love you.
My man. There you go. Woo! Check us out on Twitter and on iTunes, YouTube, Facebook, and SoundCloud. Also, check out our sports blog. Articles are released every week, and our writers need your support. In the meantime, we'll be back next week.